So do you think that the whole system should involve all kind of people?
Absolutely, because I think how we define design has been its drawback. That is what has actually killed the idea of design. Because design is not about, though of course, conventionally in the marketplace, a lot of people still think of design as a pretty artifact or a little cosmetic touch here and there. But even beyond that, if you look at design as a problem-solving process, and it's looking at how to solve transport, distribution of food, or a building, or a town. The key question is, again, goes back to what I said. When you look at the overall model of how India can go ahead, then how do we define design? So that the knowledge and the expertise which is embedded in generations is there. We might not have called it design. But the problem-solving approach and being creative and innovative has always been there. Unfortunately, by building these very privileged institutions, it's excluded them. So you have that top-down mentality that if I go as a consultant to a village and I'm coming and saying that I'm going to solve your problems for you, which actually automatically kills any kind of initiative from there, because they kind of see you as an external element who just doesn't seem to be able to empathize with what they are. And that equation has to change. Unless that changes, I don't see any kind of real change happening. You might have 10 different campuses set up, with the idea that you're going to solve problems, you're going to take it deeper within, spread out, to take care of whatever problems you see. But those problems that you state might not be the problems which are actually the problems. So that is the kind of engagement. How do you actually address that issue? So when you set up any kind of framework for education, we need to do that exercise of actually going deep with it and seeing what is it that actually has to be done. Sustainability is a big keyword now. Mm-hmm. But sustainability and eco-friendliness and all that has been part of our embedded traditions for generations. And you don't need to teach them about, how to solve that. The problem has been that you have brought in external elements and completely messed it up and then tried to solve the problem. Yeah, part of the problem is, I think, creating these little boxes into which you fit in. You are an industrial designer, and you are a graphic designer, or you are a ceramic designer, and you are exclusive creatures. But if you look at a larger life system and seeing it as being a completely enmeshed, intertwined system, where each one is complementing each other, which again, like I said, goes back to how we were earlier. You take a village, and designers have this thing of looking down on craft for some strange reason. That, that is somewhere there, and design is up there. And I look at it the other way, because craft was actually a solution to a problem. They created it out of local material. They completely built an efficient system, a sustainable model, absolutely to the core. External elements or consultants, so-called consultants, came in with their inputs and changed it around. And where a system was actually completely a wide open system where each one worked with each other and understood, exactly like what he was saying. One could understand what the other bit was. And our new system seemed to kind of exclude and separate those. And then we talk of teamwork.
The most unfortunate thing is this, you give a national award and you say he's a master craftsman, you say he is such a big national figure, but he cannot teach in the institute because he is not qualified to be a teacher in a design institute. That's a very big problem.
Yes. Teaching again, somebody who is professionally or otherwise qualified and is very good at what they do, very often is not very good at teaching. So what kind of...
you can demonstrate.
Yeah.
That is also teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. But the learning, the kind of, maybe the way of teaching or the system of learning needs to be reframed. For example, how do you take a student who wants to learn pottery to a potter, a master potter? Is it by observing and being able to go there and spend the time without being, too vocal and the need to show that I'm here as a student and you must teach me? Do you look at the teacher as somebody to be really respected and to learn by spending the time, quiet time? Really opening your mind and learn. How do you teach that in an institution? How is a student to be taught that there is a kind of learning that you just by observing and being quiet and just learn from what is. So the other part is of course where you train the teacher, train a profession to be able to teach. Now that system is again a professionally worked out system. Now the kind of inputs which need to go into that needs to be looked at. Because you will have across the country, if you're picking out people who can be these master teachers, if you were to, a master craftsman or somebody with expertise who can actually be also taught to be a teacher. I don't know how that can be done, but yeah. And the other part also I think is to demystify the idea of design and make it's not to be kept as an ivory tower edifice. It's something which people at ground level need to be engaged. So if you reframe it that way, I think then it works much better because nobody is carried away with the idea that it is something to be kept as an elitist idea.
That's what I want to ask, that there are very definite opinion that it's design education is 50 years old in this country. The formal education.
Okay.
Design education had been there for last 5,000 years. That is don't bother. Formal so-called presents what we say designers or design education. Have we created any impact in the country?
Not in the way it should, according to me. Because unfortunately, most of what designers are doing is sort of very, very niche segment, very, very narrow kind of a segment, which is very, very small percentage which has an impact, which is again a very limited circle. If you're looking at retail, for example, somebody takes up a store, it could be a mega store, but is limited to just that. And design can do much, much more. If I look at the scale, for example, if you're looking at settlements, human settlements, if you look at that as a design problem, what kind of inputs are required? How do you create that settlement? So who are the kind of people and expertise that is required in putting that? Who are the people who will come in? Is it just a designer, or can the idea of design, as I mentioned before, is expanded, and then the town planner comes in? There is a transportation designer who comes in. How do we see this complete vision? Which is also you're looking at sustainable living. So you have farmlands as part of the township. Your food comes from close by instead of traveling miles away. Who will envision this? And what's the kind of talent required? Who trains them? So when you're looking at setting up this, I think these are key questions to be asked.
So that means that design education after basics should be open to all professions.
Absolutely. I think because every input is invaluable. Only then can you actually have probably head to, there is no perfect solution, but probably a 90% solution, which can be an ideal solution or a working, without creating problems elsewhere, can only come with this kind of intermission. We have to redefine what design is and can be. And that is again in reference with what is the kind of India that we want to see. Can we create something totally new in terms of where we come from? It's very important to see where we come from. Rather than seeing, for example, the UN has defined a model for developing countries. But we are seeing at the same time now what is happening globally in terms of financial markets collapsing, financial system which is completely collapsed. And we have been trying to ape that. So somewhere we need to do a deep introspection and see what is the system that we can design for ourselves.
That also brings to another thing, there's big debate is going on where people in West are telling that the design schools are only training assistants or operators, while the thinking is done by managers.
Yes.
So why are you wasting time on teaching them thinking, because they will never think. Thinking is done by financiers and managers who are running the companies. So you are training the operators.
Yeah. That brings us back to the education system in India, where the British came in and set up the education system which was actually to do specific jobs, where you implemented what you were told to do. You were not supposed to think. And that unfortunately is carried into many of our other systems, where you're made to execute. You know, that ability to think, which was innate in every individual, has been killed slowly. So how do you actually reignite that? This is part of this job.
But lot of graduates of design graduates who are coming out, they are ending up in the process of being an operator or an assistant or something. Will they have opportunity to think?
See, that is again part of the larger problem in terms of people looking for safe jobs. You know, do you want to actually go out there and try to do new things, or you want to create new things? Because by definition I would have thought, you know, getting into this profession would have been for you to push the boundaries and to explore new things. But if you are looking at a safe kind of existence, then you go into jobs where you don't want to think and you don't want to challenge it, or you don't want to question. You do this thing, finish the job, take your salary and you're home free.
Or is a client job?
Yeah, it's
client tell you a problem, you solve the problem, you get your check and that's it.
Yeah. But this is the time, I think this is the age for questioning. This is the age for questioning everything about where design is going as a profession to the extreme thing of where is India going as a nation. Is somebody going to decide for us, or do we have the courage to actually ask some serious questions?
So basically, it boils down that at present design is considered a tool to serve industry. Unfortunately, whether it is a publication houses or industrial houses or whatever it is. But the definition which was given, that design is meant to uplift the life, where is that?
Exactly. Yeah, see, if, the focus so far has been on industry or business, looking at how do we increase our bottom line. So whichever way they define making the country prosperous is based on that basic foundation. So if a company thinks, for example, you know, I raised a question, for example, bottled water. As a right, basic human right, we must have access to clean, potable water. Why is that not happening? Because the lobbies which are pushing for bottled, you know, mineral water, they call mineral water, very often the plants are just in your neighborhood. Why is that happening? Why don't we have actually as a nation say, let's stop bottled water. Let's try and ensure delivery of clean potable water to every citizen in the country. Why aren't we doing that? Because it's a huge complicated effort. Industries who are supposed to, you know, clean their effluents and no discharges into your water bodies or your, you know, streams and rivers. There are no bodies who are serious about that. Hence, there is always a market for bottled water. Simple. And if you look at similar things across, food, processed foods coming in, when you have actually, You have processed foods, then you fall sick, then you have medical systems, hospital networks which are actually geared to make larger profits. Where you can have actually small, your neighborhood remedies which could have been there from your herbs and to some extent in terms of basic colds or headaches or whatever. But the hospital networks are out there to make money. The policy is framed for that. So it will ensure that this kind of thing is actually killed.
The same thing like alternate energy has not been, no more emphasis is given
Yeah.
because the petrol lobby will suffer.
Yeah, the energy lobby is huge,
Yeah.
strong. So that's why I said when you need to look, take good hard look at where India is going. This is the time.
How you think this whole conflict is coming, particularly in design education where everybody thinks that everything is available on net? The information technology help to fasten the process.
Yes.
But
even we use the net, and I think it is a blessing in some ways in terms of access to information. But it should no way replace why you're thinking that you need to get that information. You need to be able to, if you're looking at the design solution itself off the net as a quick route, to finish a job and get out, then I think we have a serious problem. But if you look at it as a tool, as part of your strategy, for example, you conceptualize and you need a reference image or something, then you look for it, makes sense. But if you're looking at your design solution as coming off from somewhere off the net, then we are basically looking for a quick fix. Least effort and maximum profit.
Fast.
Yeah, Maggie instant noodle.
Maggie instant. Whom do you think should be an ideal teacher to teach at design schools?
I think one of the key requirements would be a completely open mind in terms of having a very wide vision to be able to see where exactly do I fit in as a teacher and what am I going to expound to my student. Do I bring in value to the student? And all that we said in terms of focusing on the thinking process as an independent entity. Are you going to just be duplicating stuff, or are you be able to think for yourself and face the challenge and come up with something creative? See, I've certainly supported a system which is an organic form, which is nature's way of, teaching and learning. If you actually observe things in nature, there is nothing. At first glance, it looks completely raw, chaotic, and all that. But there is a structured form. So in a learning environment, I think it's important also for the teacher to be able to define that whole canvas, and then for the student to make the choices. For the student, very often, if it's a youngster, you do not have that exposure to be able to. The school system, unfortunately, would have degraded your thinking skills. Right, so to expect the student to be able to make the right choices when they first come in could be a mistake.
A counseling system.
Yeah, but in terms of, I don't know what term you can call it, but if you had a system where there is a period where they can completely explore and engage in everything and anything, to be able to get a fix on where do I want to go, as an individual, as a professional designer, whatever, and then be able to choose. The freedom to choose then should be available completely.
At that time also counseling can be given.
Yeah.
That what you wanted to do, if you wanted to do these are courses are helpful.
Yeah.
These are not helpful. Because this whole education which is they say semester based education, and you do registration and you do the admission test and everybody is taking admission and and then in the end when you get diploma, Nilami happens. 5 lakh tag, this fellow is employed.
Yeah.
That is totally awful thing.
Yeah. No, I see perfect sense in that mix being available because, see, for example, conventional systems you have, if I want to, for example, do photography, and the basic requirements set that might list X, Y, Z, which I'm not interested in, or which I think has no value for it, but is there in that, and you unfortunately are pushed to do that. But if I were to actually given a chance to do photography and I have film, which is related, I might not work in this medium, but it is so interlinked that would have much to offer in terms of learning. I should have that option.
The advantage of modular system is also, now where this center should be located?
If you're looking at one center as the main coordinating
One
facility.
center to ho gayi, only one center, you can't have many
Yeah.
centers. Should it be attached to a design institute or should be independent
I
body?
think it should be an independent body so that it can function without any biases from any one institution. Because if you're looking at networking with people from all across the country as
Yeah.
possible teachers, unfortunately, the reality is that we do have biases. There
Yes.
are institutions, I see it in the forums that, for example, NID has a certain way it looks at IDC, IDC has a certain way it looks at the other one has a certain way it looks at the newer institutions. That kind of thing has no place in this. So this body should be an independent body which has people
For all the institutions.
everywhere.
This body should be governed by all the top design institution
Yeah.
to coordinate and evaluate the programs.
See, eventually the whole purpose of this should be what is the best value that the student will get.
Yes.
It's not about the center or who's going to be running this thing. It's about what will the student gain and how can you ensure that that is the main focus. How will you enable that? How will you make it happen in terms of the student being able to access this kind of input from anywhere in the country? And that cannot be defined by because I'm affiliated to this institution that my people are not getting involved, so let us withdraw that program.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately we all witness.
Yeah.
These kind of things, not probably in design but other.
Other-
And these are things which we can actually see when you are starting afresh. You have the tremendous opportunity to completely set this as a new framework.
What are the kind of modules you come in your mind which should be you should be included in the curriculum for teachers? See, like modules for bigger module, design for health. Now, in design for health, there is so many things come under it. Water harvesting, sustainable energy, rural development.
See, all that again comes back to those are specific
Huh.
areas, right? Now, I see it when I say broader context, I mean in terms of the settlement issue itself,
Settlement issue.
the human settlement. Now, I'll go back to that point of the government's policy, current government's policy of urbanizing to 50%. Now, urbanizing to 50% means what kind of urban centers are they looking at? Has there been a discussion? Has there been a design engagement in seeing what kind of cities are these going to be? We know what our cities are. Chaotic messes everywhere. And the interest in driving a lot of that so-called design. For example, if you look at flyovers in the cities,
Yeah.
they are addressing mobility of vehicles. They're not addressing the mobility of people.
People, correct?
There are no places for people to walk. There is no place for cyclists to use. In Bangalore right now, that means if you would have passed many of these,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be a signal-free corridor. Signal-free corridor for whom? For cars. So the cars should be able to go without stopping. And I would say that is a completely lopsided priority.
By the way,
So
they have
when you look-
introduced a module, design for mobility.
Yeah.
There is a module which is used,
Yeah.
design for
So
mobility.
that itself becomes a small part of visualizing a settlement.
Yeah.
We call it cities or whatever, metropolis. Now, if you step back and if you're looking at that as a very critical part of how India is going to be as a nation. It's very frightening if you look at 50% urbanization with that kind of a model. So how do we redesign that? How do we engage this? So which parts of that will become part of modules? So 50% urbanizations means that much reduction in agricultural land. So you're looking at food production, which is highly mechanized, which will eventually be controlled by 2 or 3 corporations. You know, if seed rights will be completely taken away from the farmers, because the corporations will sell the seeds which the farmers will have to buy. Those seeds are genetically modified, where its life cycle is only 1 crop. From that crop, whatever seeds come are infertile. So that's the kind of system the government policy is trying to push. Now, as a nation, where is the voice for the people? How can you, for example, bring that argument as a discussion thing? How do you design it as a process for people to actually engage in looking at this? That is also a design problem.
And this boils down to the same, that this agricultural land, you get a NOC, no objection certificate, and then agricultural land is disappearing, and
absolutely, it's all part of this whole process. So there are these loopholes built into these policies, which are written by the bureaucrats and the government. People have no complete voice because you don't know how to engage.
And gundas.
But that becomes a little periphery of that. You notify, for example, before an airport is, for example, announced, there is a lot of homework which goes behind. The politicians and their families and relatives already bought up all that property.
Yeah.
Then they will announce the airport. And immediately what you bought for 10 rupees a square feet has become $1,000 a square feet.
True.
Right? So those are issues which are critical issues. How do people get into a engagement to see where are we going? I mean, what rights do we have as people? That is a design process, and that I see as a critical part of how it should be part of the design curriculum. How do you bring that in?
That means
how do you design your own future? I mean, that is the bigger picture.
And designing administration, designing democracy, designing decision-making process.
So
that is also the
it
part
goes back to what you were saying in terms of how a lot of designers are just going for the paycheck.
Yeah.
You do the job and you finish and you're not bothered.
Yeah.
How do you break that out into simple, even average people engaging in this process of questioning? Hey, we have a right. We have elected you. We need to know what you are doing for us.
True.
So I think that's a bigger picture. Then all these small things then fit in slowly.
What else? Anything else you want to say?
That's